as the sheriff in El Paso County says a new state law is making it easier to bust illegal marijuana grows. The new law limits the number.
A group of Chinese nationals arrested now accused of running a multi-million-dollar money laundering and drug operation. The complaint says the defendants were smuggled into the U.S. to work in a network.
According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, these defendants are accused of distributing marijuana in extremely large quantities.
According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, these defendants allegedly distributed large-scale quantities of marijuana. Boston just witnessed one of the biggest marijuana trafficking busts in recent years, and the details reveal how deeply organized crime had already taken root inside ordinary American neighborhoods. Federal agents have charged 7 Chinese nationals accused of running a multi-million-dollar network of hidden grow houses scattered across Massachusetts and Maine. These were not large farms out in rural fields. Instead, they were ordinary suburban homes, places that looked completely normal from the outside, but were completely transformed inside into sophisticated drug factories designed for non-stop production. According to prosecutors, the operation was carefully built to maximize profit and minimize attention, turning quiet residential streets into fronts for international organized crime. Workers were smuggled into the United States, their passports were immediately taken away upon arrival, and they were forced to work under brutal conditions until their supposed debts were fully repaid. What appeared to be ordinary housing developments were in reality industrial-scale marijuana growth sites, controlled through intimidation, violence, and absolute secrecy. The focus of the case was what investigators describe as a Chinese-run trafficking organization that had spread across several towns in Massachusetts, including Braintree, Melrose, and Greenfield. Prosecutors say the mission of this group was straightforward and ruthless. Produce kilogram after kilogram of high-quality marijuana and use the Northeast black market as a steady, highly lucrative stream of profit. But the drugs themselves were only one part of the scheme. The enormous profits were systematically laundered into cash, high-end jewelry, luxury vehicles, and even real estate holdings, allowing the group to disguise criminal money as legitimate wealth. It was a business model built to last for years. Cheap, almost slave labor, hidden grow houses, a reliable and ever-growing market for marijuana, and a sophisticated system to recycle the profits back into assets that would appear completely legal on paper. Federal officials stressed that this was not just marijuana being grown for local consumption. It was part of an interconnected global web that linked production in small American towns directly to international money movement, with ties stretching all the way back to China. The organization treated suburban homes like industrial factories, entire communities like camouflage, and the black market like an inexhaustible gold mine. The timeline shows just how long this network was able to operate undetected before law enforcement finally had enough evidence to strike. Investigators say the scheme began around 2020 and continued unchecked for nearly 4 years, running all the way through late 2024 before the massive coordinated takedown. During that period, federal agents meticulously tracked suspicious financial transactions, intercepted multiple shipments, and gradually uncovered the full structure of the network. By patiently following the money trail, they began to connect individual houses, operators, and associates until the evidence clearly pointed to a large, highly organized criminal conspiracy. The final stage came in October 2024 when dozens of homes were raided simultaneously in a carefully coordinated multi-state strike. Inside the raided properties, investigators found exactly what they had long suspected: thousands of marijuana plants growing under carefully engineered lighting and irrigation systems, safes stuffed with dozens of Chinese passports, and luxury goods purchased with black market cash. The raids exposed the true scale and sophistication of the operation. What had previously looked like isolated, unrelated houses turned out to be interconnected pieces of a much wider and darker puzzle. Each raided house served a specific role in a criminal enterprise that stretched across state lines and international borders. The bust was not just a sudden raid, it was the culmination of years of patient investigation, and it revealed how international criminal groups can quietly build entire empires inside peaceful communities where nobody thought to look. When the hammer finally came down in October 2024, it was immediately clear that this was not a small-scale sweep, but the dismantling of a major transnational organized crime network. 6 of the 7 defendants were arrested in coordinated early morning raids across multiple states, while the 7th remains on the run and is now being actively pursued by federal authorities with an international warrant. Prosecutors made it crystal clear that these were not low-level offenders or small-time growers. Every person arrested played a critical leadership or operational role in the larger enterprise, whether operating grow houses, handling and transporting millions in cash, or managing the forced labor that kept the entire system running smoothly. The charges they now face are extremely serious: sweeping federal drug conspiracy, large-scale money laundering, and human trafficking, specifically the smuggling of foreign nationals into the United States for forced labor and exploitation. Law enforcement officials emphasized that these arrests represented the removal of key links in a much larger and still active criminal chain. Every individual taken into custody represented another vital piece of a sophisticated criminal business model being removed from the chessboard. And while one high-level suspect remains a fugitive, the 6 already in custody represent the very heart and brain of the network, a structure meticulously designed to turn illegal drugs into massive profit, and that profit into lasting power and influence. At the absolute center of this case were not only drugs and money, but also human beings who had been trafficked and exploited as part of the operation. Investigators say Chinese nationals were smuggled into the United States under false pretenses, then immediately forced to work inside the grow houses under harsh, prison-like conditions. Their passports were seized the moment they arrived, effectively locking them in place with no ability to leave, no legal documents, no money, and no freedom until their fabricated debts were paid off, an impossible cycle that could last for years. Prosecutors describe this as a hidden modern-day system of bondage deliberately designed to trap workers inside an endless cycle of forced labor and insurmountable debt. Behind the walls of seemingly normal suburban homes, real people were being controlled, threatened, and forced to tend endless rows of marijuana plants, often living in the very same houses where the drugs were being produced, sleeping on floors, eating minimal food, and never seeing daylight. This detail shocked even the most seasoned agents because it showed that these international trafficking operations do not just exploit communities financially, they directly exploit and dehumanize individuals, reducing human beings to mere tools of production. The bust revealed that what was hidden inside these quiet neighborhoods was not just an illegal marijuana grow operation, but an entire hidden workforce of trafficked and smuggled laborers who had been stripped of their freedom, their identities, and forced into silence under threat of violence or deportation. The evidence collected during the raids tells the chilling story of just how much money and product was flowing through this network on a weekly and monthly basis. In one home in Braintree, agents uncovered $270,000 in cash and several Chinese passports locked away in a safe, clear, undeniable proof of both the money laundering scheme and the systematic exploitation of workers. In Melrose, another raid uncovered 50 kilograms of processed high-grade marijuana ready for distribution, nearly $200,000 in cash, and a $65,000 Rolex watch, still in its original box, luxury items bought with the profits of forced labor and drug sales. Seizures took place across multiple homes in both Massachusetts and Maine. The total amount seized added up to over 100 kilograms of marijuana, an enormous quantity for a single region, enough to flood local black markets and supply distribution networks across multiple state lines for months. These numbers demonstrated beyond doubt that this was not casual home growing or a small side hustle. It was a high-volume industrial-scale network engineered for nonstop production and steady large-scale distribution. Every kilogram seized was a stark reminder of how much had already been sold on the streets and how much more was planned for the coming months and years. The money laundering side of the case revealed just how advanced and professional the organization had become at hiding and legitimizing its profits. Agents allege that the total illegal proceeds stretched well into the tens of millions of dollars, moved through a complex web of channels specifically designed to keep everything hidden from law enforcement. Cash was routinely stuffed into hidden car engine compartments under seats or inside spare tires to avoid detection during transport. Bulk deliveries of marijuana were routed through trusted contacts in New York and other major cities, and the profits were quickly converted into real estate luxury vehicles, gold and jewelry to create the outward appearance of legitimate wealth. Even during a routine traffic stop in 2023, suspects were caught with $36,900 in cash hidden inside the vehicle, and one of them was brazenly wearing a T-shirt that literally read, "Money," in large letters, a bold, almost mocking display of how confident and untouchable they believed themselves to be. Investigators said this level of arrogance clearly showed the network's belief that their operation was untouchable and that law enforcement would never catch up. By uncovering this vast web of drugs, cash, human trafficking, and money laundering, federal agents not only dismantled a major marijuana pipeline, but also exposed how deeply criminal organizations can infiltrate and launder dirty money into the clean, everyday fabric of local American communities. Federal officials described this case as far more than just another drug bust. They said it pulled back the curtain on how sophisticated global criminal networks infiltrate American communities, hiding in plain sight for years, while building enormous wealth off the black market and human suffering. The message was unmistakable. This was never just about marijuana plants growing inside suburban homes. It was about transnational organized crime, exploiting entire neighborhoods, manipulating financial systems, trafficking human beings, and using people as disposable labor in a modern form of slavery. Law enforcement leaders repeatedly emphasized that the real danger was not only the massive quantities of drugs being grown, but the extreme sophistication, patience, and adaptability of the operation itself. These groups know exactly how to hide in plain sight, how to launder money undetectably, and how to blend seamlessly into ordinary middle-class communities. By successfully bringing down this particular network, officials wanted to send a strong message that even the most hidden criminal empires can and will be uncovered and destroyed. But they also issued a sobering warning: for every network taken down, another is likely already setting up behind closed doors in a different town with new houses, new workers, and new routes. The bust was both a major victory and a wake-up call, undeniable proof of how advanced these criminal enterprises have become and how easily they can burrow deep into quiet, unsuspecting neighborhoods. Investigators also revealed more chilling details of the tactics that made the operation nearly impossible to detect for so long. They uncovered a detailed East Coast contact list, a virtual phone book linking growers, distributors, money couriers, and high-level organizers with direct connections stretching all the way back to mainland China. Every grow house was deliberately designed to look completely normal from the street blinds, always drawn lawns, perfectly maintained, no unusual smells, escaping no excessive vehicles or foot traffic. But inside the properties had been completely gutted and rebuilt as state-of-the-art drug factories, with specialized high-intensity lighting, advanced irrigation and ventilation systems, and illegally bypassed electrical wiring to support round-the-clock growth cycles without raising utility red flags. Cash was constantly shuffled between multiple safe houses in different towns. Workers were regularly rotated between properties and kept under strict control through passport seizure, physical threats, and isolation. Profits were disguised as legitimate real estate purchases, car dealership payments, or high-end jewelry acquisitions. Every single house in the network served a specific assigned role, some for growing, some for drying and processing, some for storage, and others purely for money laundering. Agents repeatedly stated this was no amateur or sloppy setup. It was a meticulously structured corporation-like criminal enterprise where every moving part supported and protected the larger machine. Most neighbors had absolutely no idea what was happening right next door, which made the eventual discovery even more shocking and disturbing. To the outside world, these were just quiet, unremarkable homes in ordinary towns. To law enforcement, they were critical hubs in an international criminal pipeline worth tens of millions of dollars. This level of planning and deception, investigators warned, is exactly what makes modern organized crime so incredibly dangerous it can remain completely invisible until it has already taken deep root in the heart of American communities. The conclusion of the Boston area raid leaves both relief and a lingering warning. 7 individuals charged, 6 arrested, 1 still on the run. Millions of dollars in illegal profits uncovered, hundreds of kilograms of marijuana seized, luxury items, hidden cash, trafficked human beings, and stolen freedom all brought to light. On the surface, this is a major clear-cut victory for federal law enforcement, tangible proof that years of quiet, painstaking investigation can pay off with massive, game-changing results. But officials repeatedly cautioned that the fight is very far from over. Organized crime adapts with frightening speed. These groups quickly find new houses, new towns, new victims to traffic, new money laundering routes, and new fronts to hide behind. For local communities, the warning is stark and uncomfortable. Organized crime does not always look like a heavily armed cartel compound in the desert. Sometimes, perhaps more often than we want to admit, it hides behind the manicured lawns and closed blinds of quiet suburban homes in neighborhoods where children play in the street and families genuinely believe they are safe. The Boston case has proven once and for all that sophisticated global criminal networks can embed themselves literally anywhere, quietly turning ordinary American streets into hidden crime scenes and profit machines. For law enforcement, the work never stops. For the public, the lesson is painfully clear. Constant vigilance is absolutely necessary because these hidden criminal empires thrive on silence, indifference, and the assumption that it can't happen here. And without relentless, strong enforcement, they will continue to spread, grow, and exploit quietly, turning more and more ordinary neighborhoods into invisible factories of drugs, money, and human suffering.